Come closer, everyone. Settle in right here by the fire and let the warmth push back that chill of the night. Welcome, fellow travelers, to tonight's Explainer. We spend so much of our time looking up at the stars, marveling at the high towers of our cities, or just fearing those sudden storms that can literally tear the roofs right off our homes. But tonight, we aren't looking up. Tonight, we're looking down. Deep, deep down into the dirt. We are going to explore the ancient laws of the deep earth, guided by the stories of a being who watches from the dark. Get comfortable, because we're about to learn about Rhizan Veyr, the master of roots.
Okay, let's dive into this. That quote right there, it perfectly captures the essence of who, or rather what, Rhizan Veyr actually is. He is the keeper of hidden attachment, buried memory, and the raw law beneath all other laws. You see, the crowns, the flags, and the towers of human kingdoms, they all stand above ground, loudly demanding our attention. But roots just remain beneath them. They hold quietly, they drink deeply. They listen to the pressure of the soil long before a collapse ever becomes visible. They don't sing, they don't roar, and they certainly don't demand grand temples built in their honor. They simply enter stone, grain by grain, splitting massive walls without a single ounce of anger.
Part 1. The Ash and the Shoot. Let's whisper about the origins of the Master of Roots.
So, you might be wondering, where did such a patient, unrelenting intelligence come from? The Master of Roots wasn't just always here. He had a beginning, and it was born from a great, terrible wound. He wasn't born from some untouched, pristine nature. No, he was born from nature wounded, yet stubbornly refusing to die. The oldest story whispers that Rhizan Veyr began on the day of the fire, when the very first forest was burned to absolute ash. The leaves were gone, the animals had fled, but under the ground, one blackened stump just refused to give up. Its roots still held the shape of a living thing. Then came the season of rain. Worms returned to the soil, fungi softened the dead, charred wood, and from one hidden vein in that ruined stump, a single, pale sprout rose up. That shoot eventually became a massive tree, and that tree remembered the fire, without actually becoming the fire itself. From that deep, surviving memory, the patient intelligence of Rhizan Veyr slowly awakened across the ages.
Now, because of this incredibly painful origin, you absolutely must understand something vital about him. Rhizan does not hate destruction. He gets it. He understands that storms break branches, that animals tear bark, and that fire sometimes has to clear old sickness from the woods. What he utterly despises is arrogant uprooting. He absolutely hates the demonic tearing away of life from its source for pride, profit, fear, or some kind of false holiness. When manipulative forces step in and teach humans to conquer by severing their memory and destroying their belonging, well, that is when the soil shifts. That is when Rhizan begins to move.
Part 2. Roots against demonic crowns. The great unseen conflict.
Press your hand to the dirt for just a second. Can you hear the ground beneath you? It isn't silent. It's a battlefield. There's a massive, unseen conflict raging right now between the swift forces of the above ground and the patient forces of the below ground, and this brilliantly illustrates the difference between them. In the War of Crowns, demonic power moves swiftly by command. It's totally hierarchical. A king orders, a duke strikes, a lesser demon carries it out, and the village just suffers without knowing exactly who to blame. Demonic power thrives by completely separating the action from the consequence. But root power, it moves by connection. It doesn't try to dominate a single mind. Instead, it reveals what every mind is attached to. It traces the hidden nourishment of every cruel command right back down to its absolute source.
Which brings us directly to the unbreakable root law. Listen to this. Anything that feeds from a place can be called to answer for what it has done to that place. Rhizan Veyr doesn't overpower a demon with some flashy explosive magic. Instead, he simply exposes the feeding line. When a demon hides behind a human official or uses another mask, Root Power asks one simple question: who benefited? Whose fear increased? The Root really doesn't care which mask actually spoke the command. It exposes whoever feeds from a place, ensuring that eventually they are called to answer to the very soil they abused. As you can imagine, this deeply unnerves the highest demonic crowns. Take Baal, for instance, the first king. He once commanded the Roots to part from a battlefield using his ultimate first-name authority. And you know what happened? The ground didn't even flinch. Baal was furious because Roots completely ignore hierarchy. They only care about what you nourish, not your rank. Then you have Paimon, who actually respects Rhizan, because Roots preserve hidden ancient knowledge. Belial, the demon of fire, loves to laugh at him, until he remembers that his violent fires just leave ash, and ash literally just feeds the roots. And Valak, the serpent, he avoids him entirely. He's terrified that the roots will suddenly just close up his hidden underground tunnels.
Part 3. The Tale of the Downward Palace. Lean in close, everyone. Listen carefully to this one.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a powerful warning for anyone who thinks they can just bury their sins under heavy stone. Once upon a time, a deeply arrogant ruler made a demonic bargain to secretly cut down a sacred grove, a place where innocent refugees were hiding out. To hide his horrific crime, he quickly built a pristine, shining marble palace right over the stumps. But year after year, these tiny, branch-like cracks began to form in his beautiful marble floors. He sent his best masons, his highest priests to fix it, but absolutely nothing worked. Finally, the roots pushed violently upward, breaking right through the stone, carrying old refugee tokens, children's beads, and charred letters right into the middle of the ruler's throne room.
And as the broken marble finally settled, Rhizan Veyr himself appeared before the terrified ruler and delivered this crushing judgment. You built above those you refused to remember. Now your palace must grow downward and face them. The ruler didn't actually lose his crown that day, but he permanently lost the lie that made his reign comfortable. Root memory forced his buried, ugly truth completely into the light.
Part 4. The 5 Gifts of the Soil. Vital survival lessons we all need to remember.
If we are going to survive in a world absolutely teeming with unseen forces, we have to treat this like a study guide. You must memorize these 5 vital defenses of the earth. First, root memory. This is his ability to sense anything buried: bodies, stolen goods, or even just the emotional residue of displaced people. Then there's entanglement, which literally traps a demon in a place it has abused. Third is anchoring. This fortifies a human's mind against panic and demonic glamour by deeply tying them to their community. Fourth, underground warning uses roots and tiny fungal threads to send silent, urgent alerts miles and miles away. And finally, uprooting, which is his rarest power, used to violently rip apart the deepest feeding structures of corruption. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how entanglement and anchoring work together as this incredible, invisible shield for everyday people. Picture this. A demonic crown tries to quietly take over a town by erasing their history, making them forget their own names. Rhizan uses entanglement to trap those lies right where they started. Then he uses anchoring to remind the people exactly who they are. Because a community that is deeply connected to its past, to its soil, and to each other, that community becomes far too heavy and entangled for any demon to quickly claim.
Part 5. Where the soil cannot reach. A quiet warning about his limitations. Now please, do not mistake the Master of Roots for some all-powerful, unstoppable god. He has very strict limitations, and you have to know where he simply cannot protect you. He is totally powerless in places with no connection. Think moving ships out on the sea, up in the empty skies, or standing upon completely barren stone.
He also cannot force a coward to remember a truth they deliberately choose to forget. He can hand you the evidence on a silver platter, but he cannot make you brave. He is also incredibly slow, which makes him super vulnerable to the swift, violent storms of certain demons. But perhaps his deepest, most surprising weakness? It's his mercy. Roots exist to nourish the living, so he rarely destroys anything without first offering a chance for restoration. And let me tell you, his enemies constantly exploit that delay.
But you know, this limitation of mercy is also his single greatest teaching. There's a story of a mortal named Mar, who is given a dangerous, fiery ember of power from the demon Belial. Rhizan Veyr decided to test him. He took Ilian to a burned-down village and simply asked him to heal it. Now, Belial's ember desperately wanted to dominate, to roar back into a massive, commanding flame. But Ilian resisted the pride of the fire. He placed his bare hand on the soil and humbly asked the field what it actually needed. Rhizan praised him with these words, reminding him that the humility of roots is always stronger than the pride of fire.
So, the crucial point is this. Rhizan Veyr governs the unbribable law of attachment. You absolutely cannot buy him off with crowns or gold. He only answers when something living has been unfairly severed, silenced, or poisoned. As the fire dies down tonight, and we all walk back to our homes in the dark, feeling the solid, ancient earth beneath our boots, ask yourself, what forgotten truths lie buried beneath your own feet? What have you actually built your own life upon? And most importantly, will it stand when the roots finally push upward?